Chronic loneliness increases your risk of early death by 26%. That's roughly the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. You wouldn't smoke a pack of cigarettes and call it fine, but right now, millions of people are doing the biological equivalent, and they don't even know it. Because loneliness isn't just a feeling. It's not something that lives only in your head. It's something your body treats like an actual physical threat, the same way it treats an infection or an injury. And once scientists figured out why, they found something that changes how we should think about every quiet, isolated night we've ever spent. Let's start with the moment researchers first suspected this wasn't just sadness. In 1988, a psychologist named James House published a paper that startled the medical world. He analyzed years of health data and found that people with weak social connections had a significantly higher risk of death, comparable to smoking, obesity, and lack of exercise. Not correlated, comparable. Loneliness sat in the same danger category as some of the most well-documented killers in medicine, and almost nobody was talking about it. For decades, nobody could explain why. Sadness doesn't kill you. Boredom doesn't kill you. So what exactly was isolation doing to the human body that made it this dangerous? The answer came from an unexpected place: your immune system. In 2007, a neuroscientist named Steve Cole at UCLA started looking at loneliness on a genetic level. He took blood samples from people who scored high on loneliness scales and compared their gene expression to people who felt socially connected. What he found was strange. Isolated people showed a pattern he called the conserved transcriptional response to adversity. Their bodies were quietly ramping up inflammation-related genes and suppressing genes involved in fighting off viruses. In other words, lonely bodies were preparing for a physical attack that wasn't coming. This wasn't random. Cole believed it was ancient programming misfiring. For most of human history, being separated from your group didn't just feel bad, it meant real physical danger. No group meant no protection from predators, no help gathering food, no one to notice if you got hurt. Being alone was often a death sentence, so your body evolved to treat social disconnection as an emergency, the same category as a wound or an infection. It ramped up inflammation to prepare for injury. It suppressed processes it considered less urgent in the moment. That response saved lives for hundreds of thousands of years. But it wasn't built for a world where isolation lasts for months, sometimes years, without the physical danger that used to accompany it. And this is where it gets worse. Because the inflammation doesn't just sit there quietly, it actively wears the body down. Chronic inflammation has been linked to heart disease, stroke, and a weakened ability to fight infection. Cole's research found that lonely participants had immune cells that were less effective at fighting viruses, but more prone to the kind of inflammation associated with cardiovascular disease. Your body, trying to protect you from a threat that no longer exists in the way it used to, ends up attacking you instead. But here's what almost nobody talks about. Loneliness doesn't just damage the body. It changes how the brain itself works, and not in the way you'd expect. In 2009, psychologist John Cacioppo, one of the most influential researchers in this field, found something counterintuitive. Lonely brains don't just feel sad, they become hypervigilant. Cacioppo's studies showed that isolated people's brains start scanning for social threats more aggressively, unconsciously interpreting neutral faces as more hostile, and remembering negative social interactions more vividly than positive ones. This creates a vicious loop. Isolation makes your brain more suspicious of people. That suspicion makes social interaction feel more exhausting and risky. That exhaustion makes you withdraw further. Cacioppo called this the loneliness loop. And once it starts, it tends to feed itself. Think about what that means. The condition doesn't just make you feel alone, it rewires your brain to expect rejection, which makes you more likely to avoid the exact thing that would fix it. And it's not evenly distributed. In 2018, Cigna ran one of the largest loneliness surveys in U.S. history, and the results surprised almost everyone. The loneliest generation wasn't the elderly, the group most people assume struggles most with isolation. It was Gen Z, the most digitally connected generation in human history. More online interaction than any previous generation, and yet the highest reported loneliness scores. That detail matters, because it points to something researchers now believe is critical. This isn't really about how many people you talk to. It's about something specific, the quality and depth of connection, not the quantity. You can be surrounded by people, active in group chats, scrolling through hundreds of comments a day, and still trigger the exact same biological alarm as someone who lives entirely alone. Your nervous system isn't counting your follower count. It's asking a much older question. Is anyone actually here with me? So what does actual connection look like? Biologically, researchers have found that it's not really about the number of interactions. It's about specific, repeated, face-to-face moments, meals shared, Physical presence, eye contact, the small unremarkable rituals that used to be built into daily life by default. In a tribe of 25 to 30 people you saw every single day of your life. We didn't evolve for constant novelty. We evolved for a small, stable group of people who knew us, checked on us, and expected to see us again tomorrow. Most modern lives don't have that structure built in anymore. You have to build it deliberately, and that's a strange, relatively new demand to place on a species that spent almost its entire existence never having to think about it at all. Here's the part that should genuinely worry you. This isn't just an emotional inconvenience. In terms of raw mortality risk, some researchers now place chronic loneliness above obesity, above excessive drinking, and close to the danger zone of heavy smoking. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General released an advisory formally declaring loneliness a public health epidemic, citing the same body of research, the immune changes, the inflammation, the elevated mortality risk, and calling for it to be treated with the same seriousness as any other major health threat. Think about that. A feeling, something you can't scan for, can't biopsy, can't see on an X-ray, is now officially recognized as being as dangerous as some of the most studied physical diseases in modern medicine. And maybe that shouldn't surprise us as much as it does. For nearly all of human history, your survival was tied directly to your group. Your body never got the memo that this changed. It still runs the same ancient alarm system. It still treats disconnection like a wound. It still ramps up inflammation, sharpens threat detection, and quietly braces for danger every single time you go too long without real, present human contact. You wouldn't smoke 15 cigarettes a day and think nothing of it. But right now, somewhere, someone is spending another night alone, telling themselves it's fine, that it's just a quiet evening, nothing serious. And their body, running programming that's hundreds of thousands of years old, doesn't see it that way at all. It sees a threat. It's already responding. And it has no idea the danger it thinks it's facing disappeared a very long time ago.